Season 1, Episode 9, Left Behind. I was really looking forward to this episode because of the fact of that cliffhanger we had in Episode 8. And as you guys know, Episode 8 was, for me, the most entertaining episode of the show. I loved Episode 8. That was a lot of fun. I was definitely looking forward to seeing what would happen because of the cliffhanger we left on. And I'm not going to lie, I did think this episode was a bit disappointing because of the fact that the cliffhanger was resolved within 10 minutes of this episode. And now this episode was bad. I thought the central story going on was okay, but it wasn't as good as I think what it could have been. I really think this entire episode should have been us seeing the team get back to, see how Kendra, Ray, and Sarah survive on their own, because that was the most interesting aspect of the episode for me, is what was going to happen with these characters on their own, how they were going to be able to survive, how they were going to be able to, kind of like make their own home for themselves. I was looking forward to seeing what that was going to be, and then the other half of this episode I think should have been last week. I understand we need to keep things moving, that the season only has like 16 episodes, I understand that, but I really feel they could have just maybe spent a little bit more time. A problem with Legend Tomorrow in general is I think they really rushed the story, and this was definitely a story that I think they rushed. They had a lot of potential, it just didn't go the way I wanted to. That being said, there were some really great things about this episode, but let's just get into it because I overall really enjoyed it. But I definitely enjoyed the first 10 minutes the most out of everything, because like I said, that was the thing I was most looking forward to. We start with the repeat of the last episode ending. We see Kronos breaches the Wave Rider, takes over the ship, sending it into the time stream, leaving Kendra, Ray, Sarah, and Ray behind, which I thought was a good way to start it, because for people who, forgot what happened, because it's been a little while. It's been almost over a month since the show was back. I'm glad that they did this. That was really well done. So Rip orders Martin and Jax to head. Rip orders Stein and Jax to head to the jump ship, while Rip and Len attempt to retake the bridge from Kronos. And instead of abandoning ship, Jax and Stein merge into Firestorm to help their teammates, but it's too late. Kronos kidnapped Len, stole the Wave Rider's jump ship, and sabotaged the Wave Rider. Now, why this is happening, we don't know, but things are really bad for them, and they want to obviously try to get back to where they, to Sarah, Ray, and Kendra, but their ship is in like a very dire condition. So back in the 1950s, the stranded teammates realize that Rip isn't coming back, and they're thinking that they're dead. Like Kendra kind of says, guys, they're probably dead. We kind of have to live on our own. And while Ray wants to wait for the Wave Rider to return, Sarah says that staying in Paradise Falls is too dangerous since Savage still lives there, and 10 days later, we see that Ray, Sarah, and Kendra have moved to Hub City, and we take this huge time jump to 10 days later, which I thought was very interesting. Ray has cannibalized his atoms to create a time beacon so Rip can find them. He's now basically destroyed his atom suit, which is crazy, but Sarah suggests they bunker down, buy some furniture for the new apartment, and that's the best thing to do for them to buy this new furniture. And like I said, this was the most interesting aspect of the episode, because this wasn't something that Rip assigned them to do. This wasn't a mission that they were told to go on. They basically had to make the most of what they had, and I thought that was a very good thing, and I was definitely looking forward to seeing how that would be here. But then we see 10 weeks pass by, and they still haven't been picked up. Ray's still fiddling with the time beacon, but Sarah tells him to give up. She quickly packs her bags and abandons Ray and Kendra, saying that she needs to find somewhere that she belongs, and she just doesn't feel like she fits in there. Ray and Kendra, they're this great couple, and she just doesn't feel like she belongs there. And 2 more years pass. Literally, they wait 2 years, which is crazy. And Ray is now posing as a professor at a local university. He's also sounds with this really nice relation with Kendra, and it's really nice. I like seeing that, kind of like 11/22/63 a little bit, but it makes sense that Ray's this professor. I mean, as we know, Ray's wanted to do something big with his life, and the 50s kind of seem like this is where Ray should be. Like, he kind of should stay in the 50s. They're basically celebrating their 2-year anniversary. Ray gives her his latest version of the time beacon, offers to destroy it, because he honestly wants to stay in the 50s, which I thought was interesting. And I was kind of thinking, will these characters possibly stay here? I was really looking forward to seeing if that was going to happen, because like I said, this was a really great setup. The first 10 minutes, I was in love with this episode. I was going to say, guys, this is the best episode we've had so far. I mean, just everything they did here was really great, and he prepares to give Kendra an engagement ring. He's about to propose. The time beacon then goes off, alerting them the Wave Rider has appeared, and this is when I was like, really? This had to happen? If this would have happened at the end of the episode, I would have been fine, but we are literally 10 minutes into the episode, and already the Wave Rider is back. I was quite upset, I'm not gonna lie. I really wanted to see more of this. I wanted to see more of them living out on their own, because like I said, it was a very interesting aspect. seeing how they make a life for themselves, seeing how Ray's successful with teaching. I just want to see more of that. I would want to take an entire episode and just focus on that. You could have seen the Wave Rider people, every now and again, and the people that are trapped on the ship, you could have seen that. But I really want this episode to focus on Ray, Kendra, and Sarah, because the first 10 minutes, that's all we focused on, and I love that. I thought it was very well handled. The rest of the episode was fine. It just wasn't up to par with the rest of the episode. So I'm not going to lie, the rest of the episode did kind of disappoint me and did kind of lower things because of that. So sure enough, the Wave Rider falls out of the time stream, lands in front of Kendra and Ray. Rip apologizes for being late to Kendra's astonishment and Ray's more subtle disappointment. He's upset mainly because I don't think he's upset that he has to go back to that that they're there so late. I think he's upset because he kind of likes his life in 1960. And after jumping on board the Wave Rider, Ray expresses disappointment that Rip waited so long to pick them up. He said that he and Kendra had a life in 1960 with friends and a job, but Kendra reminds they've been waiting for Rip for over 2 years, and he kind of wants to stay there, but their whole thing is that they have been waiting for him, and Rip, I think, Ray's kind of forgotten that because he's just gotten so attached to the life he's made in the 1960s that he kind of feels like he wants to stay there. So Rip asks about Sarah, but neither Ray or Kendra have heard from her in years. We don't know where she's gone, and Kendra also questions why Kronos kidnapped Len instead of Rip, which is a good question. Why Len? Why wouldn't it be, Rip? Why would he want to go after Len? So Ray also has to go back to their apartment to pick up the Atom suit and a few sentimental belongings that he and Kendra had. He gets upset when Kendra doesn't act attached to their 1960s life and storms off. For whatever reason, she didn't have this attachment to 1960s that he have. And obviously he's upset because they've made this life for themselves. He was going to propose to her. I don't know why Kendra just randomly was like, all right, we got to go back to fighting. I understand that she obviously wants to take down Savage because of everything that she's been through, but I don't really know. That whole thing didn't work out as well for me. And like I said, I think this entire episode should have focused on Kendra, Ray, and Sarah. Then I would have been fine with that. The rest of the episode was fine, just wasn't, like I said, up to par of the rest of it. So on the jump ship, Kronos informs Len that his friends were spotted in 1960 and have survived. Len asks what they were doing in 1960 instead of 1958, and Len asks why Kronos took him instead of Rip, to which Kronos pulls off his mask, and he is Mick. Yes, Mick is back. I knew he wasn't going to die. He's back on the show, and he's now a villain, and the flashback reveals that Len couldn't bring himself to kill Mick. He knocked himself out instead, and I'm glad that Len didn't kill him because Len's not a killer. That's the thing. And that's the thing we're trying to show this season, that Len really is changing as a character. He's no longer this villain character that's going to rob all these places. Yeah, he's still a criminal, and that's kind of what he loves to do. But he also is gaining this, heart that he's never had before, and he doesn't really understand it. And I really think this episode explored that really well, just showing that inner side of Rip that he really doesn't, that's inner side of Len that he really doesn't know how to control. He just knows that he's growing this kindness, and he doesn't really know what's happening. He can't really kill the ones he loves, especially Mick, who has always been like a brother to him, even though he's his best friend, and has helped him out for years. He just can't bring himself to do it, and you understand that. I thought that was definitely very well done. I really love that, and I like that Mick kidnapped Len. This was a good development for him, because as we know, Mick wanted to go on the dark side, while Len kind of wants to go on the light side. It's a genuine conflict, and I think they're handling it really well, I have to say. So I definitely really enjoyed the stuff with Len and Mick in this episode. Besides the stuff with Kendra, Ray, and Sarah, it was by far the most strongest stuff in the episode. It really did save this episode from being an utter disappointment. So Mick reveals that the Time Masters rescued him and took him to the Vanishing Point, where they trained him to become a bounty hunter. He also said that he's still holding a personal grudge against Len for abandoning him, even though Len said he always planned to come back for him, which he was going to, he just never did. And you kind of have to wonder, was Len actually going to do that? Did he just say that because he wanted to go back, or did he know in the back of his mind maybe he wasn't going to go back? You have to wonder that, and I think it's a very interesting question. I definitely really like that, and like I said, strongest stuff for me. So Sarah, we see, is rejoined the League of Assassins, which is still ruled by Ra's al Ghul, because of course this is the life in which Ra's al Ghul is not killed yet, because it's 9, which I gotta say, I loved seeing Ra's al Ghul back here. I think the actor that plays him is great. He does a very good job. I will admit, after watching Batman Begins over the past summer, and seeing Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, I do think he was a stronger Ra's al Ghul, but I do like this Ra's al Ghul we have in here. I think he's a very good actor, and I'm glad to see him again. Basically, Ra's compliments Sarah on controlling her bloodlust and tells his young daughter Talia to keep her eye on her, which I like that he told Sarah this, because yeah, it would make sense this is how she controlled her bloodlust, is by having her join the League of Assassins, which, as we know, is no longer a thing. We know the League of Assassins is over, but this was before the League of Assassins, and this was before the League of Assassins ended, so I thought this was a good development for Sarah. So back on the waiver wire, Kendra tells Ray that she's glad to finally be herself again, but Ray was happy building a new life with Kendra. Even though they had to kind of hide, he was happy about it. He was enjoying it, and while they don't reach an understanding, their conversation helps them realize that Sarah probably returns to League of Assassins, and how they realize this, I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I don't really know how they come to this conclusion. So Rip checks the League of Assassins shadow record and finds that she did in fact join the League, and this pretty much becomes the main threat in this episode, is a League of Assassins, which, again, I was fine with, but I really want this episode to focus more on Ray and Kendra's personal connection to 1960s, how Ray's attached to it and Kendra's not, because like I said, I just thought they set all that up really well, and then this kind of became the main focus, and I wasn't as into it. So, instead of killing Len, Mick says that they're going back to the present day so he can kill Len's sister over and over in front of him. However, Chronoship alerts them that they found the Wave Rider, so Mick changes plans and says he wants to get his revenge on his ex-teammates first, and basically wants to go after the team. So the rest of Rip's team heads to the League's headquarters. Rip breaks into Sarah's headquarters to bring her back to the Wave Rider, but Sarah turns on him, alerts the League that there's other intruders in the building, and assassins quickly get the drop on Ray and the others. Sarah's the whole team locked up and disarmed, and Rip explains that Sarah's suffering from time drift, namely that she spent too long in a foreign timeline and has lost track of her real identity. And, that's interesting, but my question is, why is, if she's suffering from this, why is, Ray and Kendra, why aren't they suffering from this? Because, and basically Kendra realizes that they were suffering from this as well, but I don't really buy it that way. I mean, when Kendra got back, she right away was back in that fighting mode. Ray seemed like, he was happy to be in the 1960s, but they didn't seem like they were, like, attached to the, they were stuck in this time drift. That's not what it seemed like to me. Definitely, I didn't understand that, but now we know why her powers didn't work, and we also know why Ray was so content living in the past. But I really want this to be Ray liking the life he created in the 1960s, and that just didn't really make as much sense to me, I have to say. I really didn't like the way that it worked out, and I thought there was kind of just a cop-out. Like, they really didn't get to explore this psychological thing that Ray was going through. They could have made this a lot more psychological. Like, this wasn't just a time drift. Like, Ray actually felt attached to 1960s, and then after this, it kind of just went away. So Len tries to talk some sense to Mick, but he's set on getting revenge for the team for abandoning him, because Len knows this is kind of his fault. He wants to fix things, but Mick doesn't care. He wants to get revenge, and after Mick leaves the ship, Len manages to grab his gun, freezes off one of his hands to free himself, and I understand, obviously, why Mick wants to do this, because the team was the one that said to Len, you gotta do something about him, and that's obviously why he wants to go after them. It's not because of the fact that, he wants to, that the team, single-handedly told Rip to, it's mainly because the team single-handedly told Len to go after him. So Rip decides to evoke the League's trial by combat in an attempt to free himself. Sarah and the rest of the team, Roz accepts but chooses Sarah as his champion. Rip in return proposes Kendra as her champion when she accepts over Ray's objections, and Sarah and Kendra begin a duel, but Sarah gets the upper hand, even after Kendra used her powers. Seeing her friend again, Sarah realizes who she really is just in time for Kronos to blast his way into Nanda Parbat, and again, they got rid of what could have been a really interesting plot point, and it just kind of annoyed me. So Roz frees the team so they can help him fight Kronos. The full team takes down Kronos, but Len arrives just in time to prevent them from killing him, and after Kronos puts off his helmet, Sarah knocks Mick out with a swift kick to the head, and Roz is surprisingly at peace with Sarah and her friends being from the future, and releases Sarah from the League, and, that was interesting, but before she leaves, Sarah tells Roz to send his daughter, Nissa, not Talia, to Lian Yu in 1998. So basically, that's what he needs to do. I thought that was very interesting. So Rip decides to lock Mick in the brig, but says that they have the chance to reform Mick and bring him back to the team. And Rip also used the Wave Rider's technology to regrow Len's hand, because if you remember, Len's hand got cut off, and now he has it back. So Kendra and Ray finally resolved the relationship issues when Kendra said that she's still in love with Ray, even though she didn't want to be in 1960. And I like this scene here with Ray and Kendra, though, because basically Kendra says that she really, got to make a choice here. This is the first relationship she has where she wasn't forced to be with someone. This wasn't a prophecy. She genuinely cares about Ray. But now all of a sudden, though, Ray doesn't want to give her this engagement ring, which I don't understand. I understand it was part of the time drift, but it really seemed like Ray was genuinely attached to 1960. It didn't just seem like she was in this time drift. It really just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. The time drift kind of killed this storyline a little bit, I'm not going to lie. I was really loving the storyline till they introduced the concept of the time drift, and well, as interesting as it is, it just didn't work for me in this episode. I really think it would have made more sense had we have Ray really just be connected to the 1960s, enjoy the life he's made, not wanting to leave because things are just going so well for him. He doesn't have anything to worry about there. Because think of their life. I mean, they really had nothing to worry about. He was this teacher. He had this, beautiful girlfriend who he really was cared about, and she didn't have powers, but she didn't really care either. They're just having this really carefree life, and then all of a sudden they have to go back. I mean, it just didn't make sense that it was a time drift. I really wanted to be that he wanted to stay in the past because he genuinely liked his life in the past and didn't want to change things. So that part of the episode really didn't work for me, I have to say, and it really did kill things. But of course, we have to go back. We have to go somewhere else next week with the team back together. Rib informs them that they're going to the Kaznia conglomerate to the year 2147, which is very different from where they've been, since he's always known that Savage was in that time period, but he considered the risk of traveling there too great until now, and that's where they're headed, and that's where the episode ends. So yeah, I was disappointed with this episode, not gonna lie, mainly because one, those characters we saw in the last episode weren't even here. I thought Sarah was gonna go back to, what was that girl's name? The girl that she was attracted to. I mean, the girl that she, told her, made her realize she was a lesbian. I can't remember her name right now. But I thought that Sarah was going back to her. I mean, it really seemed like that's where we were headed, that Sarah was gonna try to actually start a relationship with this girl, and she didn't. And we didn't even bet, what was her name? I'm trying to think of her name right now. Lindsay. I thought that Sarah was gonna go back to Lindsay, that her and Lindsay would probably start something and Lindsay could be a love interest for Sarah, but no, she went to the League of Assassins, and I understand she wants to control her bloodlust, but it really seemed like she wanted to help Lindsay and wanted to help her with this thing, and it seemed like two completely different things. I mean, on one hand, she wants to help people that are kind of secret about things and actually not be afraid to show who they really are, and on the other hand, she wants to control her bloodlust, and I was really confused as to why they went with this storyline. I mean, the Sarah bloodlust storyline, it works in a way, but I think the whole thing with Sarah wanting to fix this whole situation with lesbians and things like that and make their voice known and not let them hide who they are, I think is a lot more compelling and a lot more relatable than her bloodlust. It just didn't work as well for me. Like I said, the time loop thing, that didn't really work for me either. I like Kendra and Ray, but now all of a sudden Ray doesn't seem to care about her as much, which I really don't like. I like the way they showed them in the 1950s. I wanted it to be genuine, but now it seems like it was just because they were in this time loop, and like I said, that really pissed me off. I really wasn't a fan of it, and I like that Kendra likes Ray, but now he doesn't seem to want to give her the engagement ring, which I think is really stupid, honestly. I don't like it. I think it's dumb, and I'm just not a fan of it. Like I said, the strongest stuff for me, without a doubt, was Mick and Len. I really understand where Mick is coming from. They just are on a completely different side. Mick wants to be on the dark side, while Len wants to go lighter. He doesn't want to be a villain anymore. He doesn't want to do crime anymore. He's going in a different direction, and Mick just doesn't understand that. He's going in a darker direction, while Len's going in a lighter direction. That, without a doubt, is the best thing hailing this episode. And also, Jax and Stein had almost nothing to do in this episode. I really thought Jax was going to go back to Betty, try to find her, maybe see what's going on with her, because we had that whole thing with him and Betty in the last episode. They completely forgot about those characters. They also didn't really use the 1950s time period that well. We had a few things in the first 10 minutes where they talked about how they missed Netflix and things like that, which I thought was fun, but I really want this episode to just be Ray, Kendra, and Sarah in the 1950s trying to make a life on their own, and then the ending realize that they have to go back to the Wave Rider. I think that just would have made for a lot more effective an episode, a lot more emotional, and just a lot better than what we actually got. For me, this was kind of a waste of an episode, and like I said, I was quite disappointed by this episode. But overall, guys, I know you guys saw this episode. I really was not a fan of it. I wanted to like it a lot more than I did. I'm sure I'll like next week's, but this one, just after such a great episode, I just was very disappointed with the way this turned out. The first 10 minutes was amazing. The Lennon mix was really good. Everything else I just didn't like very much. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. We'll see you guys in the next video, which will be for the series premiere of the new Hulu show, The Path, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.